The Prime Minister will again outline his net zero emissions ambition on the global stage later this week, and now all but committed to a target at some point. He's warned that jobs in regional parts of the nation will be left stranded unless the country embraces low emissions technology, but not everyone agrees with that. Let's get the view from either side of this discussion. I'm joined by Director of Research at the Institute of Public Affairs, Daniel Wild, and Richie Mirzian, Climate Director at the Australia Institute. Daniel, I'll go first to you. What's your reaction to this announcement today? We're standing by to go to the Prime Minister and Energy Minister on the carbon capture, use and storage initiative, another, nearly 300 million on that, and then a further 300 million when it comes to hydrogen. That's only $500 million all up. What do you make of it?
Well, Kieran, a net zero emissions target would be a betrayal of the Australian people. It would be turning their back on what was taken to the 2019 election. That was dubbed by some as the climate election, and Australians voted against having climate policy along the lines of a net zero emissions target. And just talking about the regional job situation, the truth is the exact opposite to what Prime Minister Morrison has suggested. What we know is that a net zero emissions target would put up to 653,000 jobs at risk, and those jobs would be concentrated in regional Australia in sectors like mining, manufacturing and agriculture. So this would disproportionately affect Australians living in the outer suburbs and the regions. And the issue with this is not just about the jobs. What we know is that widespread unemployment creates a humanitarian catastrophe. We know that unemployment causes a whole raft of physical and mental illness. It causes increase to domestic violence. It causes families to break up, communities to break up. So a net zero emissions target would unleash an economic and humanitarian catastrophe on regional Australians.
So Richie Mirzian from the Australia Institute, your response to that?
It just seems ridiculous to think that simply because there's sectors and jobs that are in high emission sectors, that suddenly those jobs would disappear if we take a net zero pathway. I mean, these opportunities come because we're transitioning these sectors from high emissions to low emissions. That's the entire basis of the Prime Minister's approach to use technology, and we know it works. We have upgraded so many different sectors in the past. That's the plan now. I mean, just look at the United States. You have the largest economy in the world, proposing the largest jobs plan in the world, and they're doing that with climate change as the main driver. Why? Because it works. Look at the agriculture sector. They've created thousands of jobs by creating carbon market offsets that the government has been buying up through the Emissions Reduction Fund. Like, there are jobs aplenty in a net zero pathway. The last thing we want to do is bury our heads in the sand and hope the world doesn't change on us.
Daniel, as a free market think tank, the Institute of Public Affairs would look at the flow of global capital, and it seems pretty clear that major investment funds and so on, they stress test companies against climate change. Are you worried about the potential flight of capital if we don't do what the Prime Minister says he wants to do, and that is reduce emissions?
No, quite the opposite. Reducing emissions will cause capital flight out of Australia. It'll cause jobs to fly out of Australia. What we know is that when it comes to jobs, when it comes to the economy, this green new economy does not exist. For every one job that's been created in the renewables sector over the last 10 years, 5 jobs in the manufacturing sector in Australia have been destroyed. So this idea that those people that are losing their jobs in manufacturing, in mining and agriculture will get work in renewables or get work in other green sectors is just not supported by the best available evidence. What we know is that Australia has a unique competitive advantage. We have 1,000 years worth of coal, we have plenty of gas, and we have nuclear. We should have the lowest and most reliable electricity supply in the world, which we used to before the renewable energy target came on, before we had billions of dollars in subsidies every year to renewables. That is the key issue.
Okay, Daniel. Let Richie, just to you finally, we've only got a minute left.
Yeah, look, Kieran, it's impossible to see how renewables has actually led to manufacturing jobs going out the door. This is the same government that killed off the car manufacturing industry. That wasn't because of renewables. It was because it took this neoliberal approach to job creation. And now that the world is switching to electric vehicles, we're not doing anything to attract the best and cleanest cars here as well. Look, there are 3 times more jobs in the renewable energy electricity generation sector than there are in coal and gas electricity generation, and renewables only provide 25%. You want more jobs? Go down the green path. That's what so many larger economies are doing. To do the opposite is to cause disruption and damage.
Daniel Wild from the IPA, Richie Merzian from the Australia Institute. Gentlemen, appreciate it.